welcome to everyone tonight. We're all keen to get back to cricket, so hopefully tonight can give us a bit more information about what we need to do to be able to get back to training. So, what's on the next slide? Lowell? Yep, our return to training tonight. So, keep in mind everything that we are saying tonight can change any day. So, what we know now to be the case, it might change tomorrow, it might change Saturday, it might change Sunday. We don't know what will happen, but this is what we know now. This is what we think probably will happen in the future. Anything that changes, we will update you as soon as we can. But this is sort of the baseline of stuff that everyone needs to know. And hopefully this means that any updates in the future are pretty straightforward and just changing what we already know a little bit rather than completely learning something new. So one of the things we want everyone to do this year, and it will be a requirement for every player who wants to actually play a game this year, you need to fill out this form and send it in to the club's Gmail account for the COVID season. So this is basically saying you will wear a face mask when required. When you arrive at the ground, you will check in and check out. You'll use the sanitizer when needed. You'll do the social distancing. You won't use any spit or saliva to shine the ball. You won't share any equipment. There won't be any shared food or drinks. So everyone should be aware of these very basic outline of guidelines that we all have to follow. So everyone needs to fill out this form, send it through to that Gmail account. A photo of the form manually filled in, or even just an email saying that you've signed it, is good enough. But we need something from you with this form to say that you acknowledge it and that you've signed it. We can't just have people turning up without having signed the form or sent through the form. Okay, so return to training, what will it look like? We've got a few slides for what everyone needs to know, especially players, but also parents, also coaches, for when training resumes. Officially, that will be after October the 26th. There's some possibility that it may happen next week, but again, as we know, that's all dependent on what comes out from the government over the weekend. So just keep that in mind. We're hopeful that we can do some training next week. Until we hear, it's officially October the 26th though. What's really important to remember is that the rules that we're going to go through, they're not just rules from the government that are irrelevant to cricket. The RDCA will come down hard on us or any club that is breaching any of these guidelines. So we want to make sure that everyone is doing their best effort to make sure that they are following the guidelines and that everyone around the club is trying to help out everyone else and make sure that they follow the guidelines. I mean, we understand people are going to make mistakes along the way. It's ingrained in everyone. So many things about cricket that we can't do this year. But everyone needs to make the greatest effort to follow these guidelines so that the club's safe, so that you're safe, and so that we can get through a full season of cricket.
Yeah, and everyone should be empowered to sort of point it out to each other as well. So if you see someone not doing the right things, then by all means, say something. Don't just let it slide.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we want everyone to help each other out and say, hey, that's not the right thing. You need to do this or that. Everyone needs to work together and make sure this works. Okay, so a bit of what it'll look like. You will see all of this signage around the club. It is going to be a very obvious reminder and guidance for everything you need to do. So one thing that Cricket Victoria has made abundantly clear, returning to play is not a right, it's a privilege. So we need to make sure that we do everything that is required of us to make sure this season goes ahead. There will be clubs that get hit hard because they took the piss and decided, oh, we don't need to follow this. They will get, all it needs is one person to dob them in. They're going to get hammered, and that could put their club, their entire association, in jeopardy. We don't want to be that club. We want to be one of the ones that is really setting a high bar for all of this stuff. So everyone has a role to play. That means everyone needs to promote good hygiene practices. Stuff like washing your hands, keeping your distance. Everyone knows the social distancing measures now. Everyone knows wash your hands when you use the bathrooms. Everyone knows you need to use the sanitizer. It's all stuff that by now everyone is aware of, but we need to make sure that we follow it. Adhering and promoting state government requirements relating to social distancing and gatherings. We will have requirements placed on us from the state government and from Cricket Victoria and from the RDCA. We need to make sure that we are following all of these requirements. That means there's going to be limits on number of people allowed at training. There will be limits on people allowed in the club rooms when they eventually do open. There will be all sorts of things that we've never even thought of before that we will all need to follow and make sure that we're doing them to keep this season going. Following the protocols and requirements around returning to train and play. Again, there's going to be a lot of things that need to happen along the way. We're going to go through a few of them tonight, particularly around returning to train. Those things everyone needs to follow to make sure that, we're not breaching any requirements, that everything's going okay. Next slide. Okay, so if you don't know me, I'm the Vice President. I'm also the COVID Safety Officer for this season. However, this is not something that I'll be able to cover off entirely by myself. We will need people at every single game who have done the COVID training course. That will almost certainly be a requirement from the RDCA for this season. So I need as many people to do this training. It says it's a 30-minute workshop. It can take as little as 5 minutes to do. It's all pretty straightforward, common sense stuff. The more people who've done that, the better for the club, the more covered off we are. So I encourage, especially coaches, captains, team managers, but I encourage everyone at the club to do this training. It just helps, say, if ever there's an issue, we can point and say, we have done everything we can to try and manage the risks here. We don't want to have a situation where they're saying, oh, you're not trying hard enough. We want to really show that we're going above and beyond, so that on the off chance that something does go wrong, we're covered.
I know it says encourage there, Aaron, but it's going to be an absolute requirement from a junior perspective that all coaches and all team managers will have done it. So it's not encouraged. We will require that. So I suspect that'll probably go to team captains as well for the seniors.
I imagine that captains will need to have done it, and there will probably need to be another person per each team that needs to have done it.
And it's super easy. Like, it takes nothing. And it's all stuff that you've heard 1,000 times this year already around social distancing and stuff like that.
Yep. The other thing is everyone is encouraged to download the COVID-19 Safe app that is from the government. It's not the most effective app going around, but if everyone has it, it's a bit more effective. So, yeah.
All right.
Next.
Maybe I'll take over.
Yeah, just before you do, as I just checked the chat, mate, I've just issued you an action item to pop the link for that that training into the chat. If you could, not into the chat, sorry, into a team app chat, please.
I'll put it in the chat here as well.
Rightio. So predominantly we're talking about training. This, by the way, I'm Lyle from. I'm the junior coordinator for those who don't know me. I think, well, certainly, hopefully, all the juniors do, but I imagine a few seniors that don't. So with training, which is the predominant focus of this presentation, is that's what we're going to talk about. Attendance. We need to keep a record of everyone who's been there, whether you're training or just standing around. We need to make sure that we're registering everyone who turns up to training. So we want to clearly identify everyone: participants, volunteers, officials, everyone. So we've got 3 options when you turn up to training to acknowledge that you've been there. One, breadcrumb, it's an app that automatically detects when you enter and leave the designated areas. That seems like the easiest one. If you want to go down that path, there's the QR code, which you can use on your phone camera, and then there's the old school pen and paper. I would recommend the top one. It seems pretty straightforward and easy, but it's up to you guys, I suppose. But we'd need at least one of those things ticked off when you turn up to training and leave. So bear with me. So this is breadcrumb, one breadcrumb. So download it. You fill in your details, and then it saves all those details for future check-ins. So you scan the little QR code, and it automatically checks you in and when you come and leave. Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong here. You're the one that knows about breadcrumb.
Yep. So this was something that the RDCA presented to us only last night. What happens is once you've input your details on the app, you only need to check into a ground once. So let's say Kimberley Reserve. The first time you return to training, you check in there. As long as you've got a location enabled for that app, from then on, every time you are at Kimberley Reserve, you will be checked in automatically. So you do not need to do anything else except turn up, and it will check you in and out when you enter and leave the ground.
Beauty. Will we have different QR codes for different grounds, Azza?
Yeah, there will be different QR codes for different grounds.
Yeah, so one for the nets, one for Kimberley Top Reserve, and one for the bottom ground. Is that correct?
Just for Kimberley Reserve, there's just one.
Okay, all right, thanks. The next one is the QR code. It's just very similar to the one breadcrumb. You scan, you take a little photo of the QR code, then you fill in your details, and then you check out on departure. That's pretty straightforward. You don't have to pick up a pen that someone else has touched, and it's all done via your phone. So pretty simple stuff.
Just hold it on this for a sec, Lyle. If people want to try and scan that QR code right now, they can. It will show you exactly what will need to be filled in every time you scan the QR code to check in.
So while people might be trying that, Aaron, my understanding is, and you and I chatted about this last night, that the QR code on this slide and the previous one are actually the same QR code. The difference is option one is if somebody wants to enable the geo fencing or the geo dimensions, so they automatically attract, then they scan the code and they turn that functionality on in the app. If they'd rather not be tracked all over the place, and some people don't want to be tracked all over the place, if they want to just do it manually upon arrival and departure, it's the same code, and we'll have it available in a laminated page on a table or pinned up, and you can scan it upon arrival and upon departure. So it's the same code, yeah?
Yep,
it's just whether
it's the same code.
Turn on the functionality to have it permanently on or not.
Yep. And yeah, one of the advantages is every club in the RDC, every ground in the RDCA will have a QR code for it. So whether you're playing at Chirnside Park, whether you're playing at Mount Evelyn, whether you're playing at Warrandyte, whether you're playing at Scoresby, doesn't matter. You will always be able to check in using a QR code or using one breadcrumb.
Nice. All right. You reckon I can move on? People have played with that one enough, I reckon. And then there's always the old school bit of pen and paper. So pretty much the similar details, fill it in. We just need to have a register. So if you haven't got on your phone those other two options, then you can always, if you forget your phone or whatever, you can always just fill in the bit of paper and pen style.
So where will that be, Lyle? I'm picturing a trestle table will probably be set up at the, at 1 or 2 points at the ground,
probably
the training venue. There'll be there'll be some signage on the table, laminated in case there's any drizzle. There'll be sanitizer. There'll be probably wipes. There'll be that thing, the code stuck on the table, and there'll be a folder that I've already created, an old school 3-ring binder with some of the pages that people can hand fill in. So that we've already got it ready to go for those that want to do that. Bring your own pen if you're worried, like when you go to the post office.
Yep. All right. So as flagged already, hand sanitizer will be available. Everyone turning up will be expected to use it. The group size was 10 until the other day, and it's now been lifted to 11. So we have to train in groups of no more than 11. It could be 12 or 13 if you've got a, some of those junior teams, for instance, often have 12 kids or 13 kids. So a team will be able to train together, basically. So that's been lifted, which is good news. But that group, whatever that training group is, so if there's 11 of you or 10 of you or whatever, stay together. It's not like you can go a group of 10 in the nets or 11 and then you change and you go out and do some fielding and someone who's in fielding comes into the nets. That group has to stay in the nets together and then move out to the ground together if you want to swap venues. You can't swap between groups. Once you're in our group, that's it. You train with that 10 or 11 and that's it. We need significant distance between the groups. They're saying 100 metres. Seems like a long way, but that's what they're saying. So as you can see here, as I said, one group in the nets, and we can have one group at either end of the ground. So we can have 5 groups of 10, basically, or 5 groups of 11, or whatever it is. So all the coaches, they'll figure out how to make that work. So Wally, as the senior coach, will figure out that for the seniors. Myself, in working with all the junior coaches, whether it be 12, 14s, girls, 10s, whatever, we'll work out how training's going to look for that particular night. So, but once you're in your group, that's it. No, we can't be merging, groups and, catching up with your mate over in another group. So, face masks, they must be worn for everyone who is not participating in training. So if you're not batting, bowling or fielding, you must be wearing a mask. If you leave your training group, you must put on your mask. As I mentioned before, there's no swapping in groups for the night. Your group is your group for the whole evening. Groups cannot mix, mingle before, during or after training. And there'll be designated areas for your kits. So group 1 that's in the nets, you'll have your spot for your kits. Group, the 2 different groups that might be out in one of the ovals, you'll have 2 separate areas where you'll store your kit. So there's no sort of chance of getting mingling or mixing up with groups. So yeah, that might be over to you, Naggers.
No worries. Thanks, Lyle. So once again, I guess just for those probably people in the lower grades or new to the club, not lower grades, sorry, junior part of the club. So I'm Nathan McFarlane. I'm just on the committee, simple as that. And I'm just put my hand up to help Azza and Lyle pull this together and present it to the membership. This slide, we touched on some of this stuff. We're going to reiterate it. Coaches will need to consider how to split the groups, ensuring a spread of coaching staff as well as a balance of batters and bowlers in each group. I mean, I'm not sure if Shane Wallaker, the senior coach, is online. He told me he was going to be able to turn up. Perhaps he's online. He can come off mute if he's got anything to.
Nathan, I am certainly here.
Did you want to add? Like, you don't have to go through your whole, regime, obviously. But a question without notice. If you're interested in just giving an overview of roughly how you picture it.
100%. Yeah, no problems, guys. Firstly, I'd like to thank you guys for taking obviously this role on. It's certainly going to be a different year, and we're going to need everyone to chip in and do their little bit. As a club should, we should all help out each other if we need a hand. So I suppose from my point of view, it's I'm going to do my very best to try and keep, I guess, looking at to try and keep the teams as best they can in terms of, especially the start of the year. Before we start playing, we need to probably train in the groups we're going to be pretty much playing in nearly. So if that means we have some juniors who are training with the juniors and are also playing seniors, they might have to step aside if we have more than 50 at training, just as they've trained already that week. So how many times in my time at the club we've had 50 at training? Very few, so this might not be an issue. But yeah, the way I'm looking at it, I'm certainly been putting a lot of thought into it. So hopefully I've spoken to a few of the committee members just in terms of trying to get some equipment to I guess utilise the grounds that we have. We're pretty lucky that we do have great facilities, and the new nets are great. But it's certainly going to be trying, and we're going to need everyone to kind of pull their weight if we can. I don't know if I answered that question, Nathan. I'm rambling a little bit.
No, it's fine. I was just a quick question about those. It's really to give you a chance to probably show your face a little bit to all the club members that have joined. I think we've got over 60 participants in the meeting, which is really exciting and very encouraging in regards to how keen people are to get involved and be a part of it. So I thank you very much.
I guess just one thing I've learned from with my company is that you certainly got to pull people up. If they're doing the wrong thing, you got to pull them up, because if you don't, they'll even just like signing in or whatever. They might do it once or twice, but you got to make sure it's a habit. Make it a habit to do the right thing. And it's going to be trying, but let's all stick together and play some cricket. That's what it's all about. So
thanks very much. We'll have a bit of an open forum at the end. There might be some questions, so see what happens.
No problem.
All righty. We're on the right slide here, Lyle. Yep. All right. So that's that. All social distancing must be maintained. This is stuff that we've been hammered in the last few months. So not trying to tell you how to suck eggs, but it kind of means in your bowling cues. It sounds a little bit silly, but I think what we need to be able to do is demonstrate as a club that we're doing the best we can and making an effort. All right. No physical contact between players, no high fives, no handshakes, no pats on the back, no fist bumps, no cuddles, no hugs, no kisses. All right. No Merv Hughes is in the ear. So that basically means no physical contact. The whole idea is, and we aren't the fun police, we're just passing on the message and supporting the message. Basically, it's turn up, train, and leave. Don't pick your nose, Wally, because you're all I can see on my screen. I have no idea if you can see me, but anyway. So sharing of personal items not permitted. Now, we're saying that because the word is personal items. So that's your drink bottles, your food, and your towels. Okay. Sharing of cricket equipment isn't encouraged and should be cleaned between each use. Now, for senior members, I'm presuming, I haven't really seen a club kit for a long time, but in the junior ranks, Lyle, happy for you to sort of have some commentary around that. That's possibly going to be more of an issue for juniors, particularly those new to the game, type young kids.
So I encourage people to have their own gear if they can, borrow, get secondhand stuff through Facebook or whatever, but we will be able to share equipment. It's just going to be a bit more onerous in terms of cleaning it between use. So before we use and after we use a set of pads and gloves, we're going to have to wipe it down and clean it with, the particular wipes, those alcohol wipes and stuff like that. So, if kids are running off, changing pads for the next kid to run back on to, have a hit, then you won't be able to do that. We'll have to clean it, and it's going to be a pain. So I certainly encourage people to get their own gear for their kids, but if I know that the times are pretty tough, so we will be able to share equipment, and we will have club equipment for sharing, but wherever possible, I encourage people to have their own stuff, is basically the message. But we'll have those alcohol wipes, and we'll have hand sanitizer and all that sort of stuff. So we will be able to do it. It'll make everyone's life a little bit easier if you have your own stuff.
100%. I think the expectation, in the past, there's been lots of parents, probably mine included, who turn up, drop me off and disappear. I think it's going to be a little bit different this year. We're probably going to need parents to help control kids' movement, because like herding cats, we're probably going to have parents who are a little bit responsible to help pad their own child up or unpad them or stuff like that. So in terms of managing children and some seniors, we're going to have some parental support, and that's what this is all about tonight.
I did do a bit of a call out for people if they do have old gear lying around their house that they're not using anymore. Then if you can donate it to the club, there will be people out there that will really appreciate a bit of gear that we might be able to provide for them. So so we'll certainly look to try and help people out as best we can, but we obviously don't have enough gear for every single kid to supply fully kit out for the whole season. So but we'll do our best. If you need a hand trying to get kitted out, then please come and see us, and we'll see what we can do.
Reach out to any one of us. If it's a little bit of a delicate topic, not everyone's got income at the moment, then you can do that privately through Lyle, myself, as anyone. We'll all be pretty discreet about that.
Absolutely.
Let's keep moving, Lyle. What's the next one? There it is. All right, so in practical terms, this is an interesting topic. Players are going to use one ball each for bowling purposes. Club balls will all be sanitised before and after training. Each trainer gets a ball from the clean ball bucket. I don't know if am I on screen, Lyle?
Yes, you are, I think.
So we'll have a sign. Can you see that?
Yep.
It's even green for those that can't read. Green is the clean ball bucket. And then after you finish bowling with that ball, so there's no sharing balls. You don't have a ball, pick it up and then throw it to the next kid in the line or the next chap. We used to call it waxing your ball. When you finish with it, you can give it a clean, ideally, and throw it in the dirty ball bucket. And we'll ensure that we look after it. So we're going to have lots of balls. Now, how that works, interestingly enough, on the ground, if you're doing training drills, is a little bit different. Our BJ or Azar, or even you, Lyle, my understanding is if you're doing fielding drills, you can use the same balls and you can hit them out and catch them and roll them and throw them in and all that stuff, because the amount of time you have it in your hand is quite small, quite limited. That's the explanation from what I understand, whereas in the nets, you're holding that ball for a significant period of time. Yep, is that right?
That's the general gist of it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
just remember, we're the messengers, not they're not our rules.
There's got to be some practicalities around that, and that's just you've got to be able to train. Not everyone's expected to wear their batting inners while they're fielding and all that stuff, but you can if you want.
That'll be it. Next slide.
Hang on a sec. Let's just check that question from Bassie. Okay, so that's okay. Paul, that question's probably more in regards to returning to play every 10 overs and all that stuff. We're going to do a separate session on return to play. Hopefully that answers that question. And can't be sure with anyone when they finish bowling, it goes in the dirty ball bucket. There will be signage, and we saw signage on the previous slide, and I held them up. All club equipment will be cleaned after use. That refers to cones, stumps, the trestle table. It's going to be quite onerous, but that's the way it is. Not keeping in mind that that's going to be every single night, because there's seniors, juniors, seniors, juniors, seniors, juniors, etc., and women's and girls too. Sorry, don't exclude. So it's going to be a hectic time. So we're going to have lots of people probably put their hand up and help out. And that cleaner will obviously have to gear up, sanitize, and then dispose of. And we'll supply all that stuff. We've purchased heaps of sanitizer, wipes, and so on and so forth.
I think with Paul's question,
Yep.
after about 40 minutes to 60 minutes, you do need to sanitize the balls before.
Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's consistent with what they expect on game day.
All right, that's fine. And we live and learn every day. Stuff's changed every day, sometimes within the day. So turns out to be a good question. And if that's the answer, so be it. We'll have to make sure we figure out some way of doing that. Maybe we can blow the siren or something. All right, next one. Okay, so some of this stuff's pretty obvious, but I think Australian culture becomes a little bit habitual. No spitting, no clearing of nostrils, no use of saliva on the ball. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've even read no use of sweat on the ball.
That's correct. No sweat either.
No sweat either. So if you're a big sweater, we ain't throwing the ball to you anymore. Keep your kit in the car or at a distance from others because access to the club rooms and change rooms will not be possible. All right, there's going to be a toilet open, but right now the council owns all the buildings and they're not going to, as we sit here right now today, they're not going to be opening up anything, but we will obviously have a toilet open and it's going to be cleaned. And we've even asked council to give us some guidance on, we know how to clean a toilet, you'd like to think, but is there an extra special expectation in regards to how we actually do that in terms of the products we use, et cetera, et cetera. So we're figuring our way through that, everybody. Next. Please look at the COVID safe policy the club has used. So what we've got here together tonight, we've pulled together is a bit of an extract from the COVID safe policy. Lyle did send it out, I think, Lyle, yes?
Might have been an old version, I think, the one
okay.
I sent out. So there's an updated one.
Well, it was really a busy, hard to read document. So we've tried to create this session to not to dumb it down, but to make it a bit easier,
But we can make sure it's in the document stuff in Team App. It'll be there.
Yeah. That's
the most up-to-date version will always be on the Cricket Victoria website.
Yeah, that's true as well. And that's interesting because even as at yesterday, Aaron, as we know, it's already changed from groups of 10 to if you play with 11, you can train with 11 and so on and so forth. What else we got? Is that it? Let's go.
Questions.
Yeah, so before we go to questions, I just want to do a bit of a close very quickly. Separately, I did mention we're going to do a return to play presentation. This is our return to train presentation. We'll do a return to play. We want to separate the two things because we know lots of stuff's going to change between now and then. In fact, we know lots of stuff's going to change possibly between now and Sunday afternoon. We're very serious about supporting the intent of the government. We want to get back to playing and training as well. And it's so encouraging that so many people have turned up tonight. This is what we're calling like webinar 2, if you like. We had the first one was a SALT session with the mental health stuff the other night. We had a massive turn up to that. And from feedback around the traps is we had a bigger turn up than many other clubs, a much bigger turn up than many other clubs. So are we going to make mistakes? Yeah, I think hopefully not, but I think you've got to be realistic. We might make a mistake here or there, but I think what we need to do is be able to demonstrate to any inspector who might turn up, who might drive past. I see the Victorian government's advertised for a number of inspectors between now and to operate between 5th of November and the 26th of March. One, guess what they're going to be doing. But if we can demonstrate we've done everything possible to mitigate the risks, such as running sessions, having plans in place, having processes, having sanitized, all that stuff, I think that we're in a pretty good space to at least put our hand on our heart and say we did everything we possibly could. I think that's about it. The only other thing I was going to mention, I'm not going to put him on the spot and tell him to come off camera, but what's this one here? Question, Nathan, because I know you want to tell us who's the that's me, because I'm working from home in the garage. So if I'm not on screen, my staff can see me, and behind there is a VB sign. So I thought better than a white screen. There appears to be a beard off between some of the a beard off. Well, there is. We'll get to that in a minute, Paulie. In fact, looks like Brad Ronalds is going with a mohawk, but but I do see our new club captain, Shane Costick's on the line. Not for a second am I going to ask you if you don't want to come off and say hello because, it's awkward. But welcome on board because you probably haven't had a chance to to see or hear from anybody at all. So welcome on board. We're really excited, and we hope that you actually make some runs in the third year when we finally start playing. So that's kind of it. Is there any? I'm happy. Be mindful. There's 60 online. We could end up with a big flurry of conversation here, but we're welcome to have anyone ask any questions, and we'll try to control as best we can.
Is Andrew here, Zach's dad? Just wondering, like at the ground, is there a plan to have like in the workplaces how there's COVID safe people to sort of monitor the compliance with the rules on game day? Is there any plan to do that sort of stuff?
So every team, whether it's the 14-5s, whether it's the 12-2s, whether it's the senior third 11, the senior first 11, every team will have at least one person who is a COVID officer, who has a general idea of everything. They won't have all the details like I do or like Lyle does, but they will have enough to do the bare minimum on game day and be the person to direct any questions to higher up if needed.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Any other questions?
How about I come off mute when I'm talking? Phil Grimley just asked about bringing your own ball, and 100% you can bring your own ball. If it's your ball and you don't want anyone else to touch it, if that's what makes you feel comfortable, that's not a problem at all. But like I said, Phil, none of those cheap bat breakers, mate. We don't want those concrete things covered in leather.
Is there a protocol, Nath, with what needs to happen with those balls at the end of session? Like with the club balls, we're throwing them in a bucket. Do we need to be treating those, doing something before the next time we come to train?
So before you throw it in the bucket,
I'm thinking about our own personal cricket ball that we're bringing, like Phillies.
Oh, if you're bringing your own ball, you should sanitize it at the end of your bowling session, just like any club ball.
Yep.
And
that's right. It goes back in your own bag.
Of course.
Yeah.
Cool.
Didn't come up on this? Who's that?
Matty Joyce.
G'day, Matt. Thanks for waving at me the other day when I waved at you and you gave me a fresh area. I look like an absolute idiot. Thank you.
Anytime, mate.
You probably saw me.
I don't think I did. Sorry.
Anyone else? What else? There's another chat here. Thanks. Oh, no worries. It's don't feel like an idiot. If you're not used to the IT, if you're not used to being on camera, just come off, ask your question. Otherwise.
Guys, it's Wendy Schilling here. Just a question regarding scoring. What are the plans? You know, will the scoring still be done in a book, or has anything changed in that respect?
Well, I know from a junior perspective, RDCA would prefer us to do live scoring, so via iPad type stuff. I'm not sure that we've got sufficient iPads to do that, but that's certainly their preference. But you know, in lieu of that, then the old scorebook will be still be the way it'll be done. So if you know, I know Wendy, your teams have often had a rotational system, so I would encourage that whoever's scoring perhaps bring their own pencil and rubber, I suppose, if we don't want to be swapping, you know, gear like pencils and stuff. And if we have to, then we just have to clean it. I don't know any other way of getting around that. So
I think that's going to be part of our return to play session, Wendy, down the track. At the moment, the return to play stuff talks about you have to wear a mask while scoring, etc., etc. There's a whole heap of rules, but I think that I think we might have to just a bit of a watching brief on that one. I've got
the guideline is that one person should score basically the whole day. Yeah.
So the rotation might be per game or per session. I know that we've got, just so people are aware, Mark Hardy's got his hand up. I want to have Mick McDonald, the president, say something as well. So, Mark Hardy, are you there, ex-president?
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Just we're going to put up a bit of a briefing so people can sort of organise their own COVID kit. We're talking about just bringing so that if they're involved in scoring, if they're involved in something, that they bring their own pencils, bring their own, just an outline so people know what they need to carry with them to training. Obviously, mask is there, but if there's something else that they're involved in, so that we're not sharing points, that maybe there's, with all the information you're gathering at the moment, sometime over the next couple of weeks, that we're able to sort of put a list of things that people should probably have in their kit bag, whether or not they're juniors, being able to do those sorts of things.
Yeah, that's definitely something that'll probably come in the return to play a bit more. Return to training, most of your stuff, it's your own equipment and everything, so it's not so much of a concern. Obviously, for a few of the junior sides, especially the younger juniors, where sharing equipment becomes sort of a necessity because they don't have their own, that's probably where we need to be a little bit more aware at this stage. But yeah, we'll definitely be working on some guidelines around that.
It's a good question, Mark. It's good to hear you, Mark. Hey, Mick McDonald, club president. Are you there, you big bearded warrior somewhere?
I am here.
Mick, question without notice. Did you want to address the troops while they're all together, and perhaps did you have maybe a bit of a net update? I know that BJ just sent me a private message saying that he was a bit too timid to come off mute and tell us, but do you want to maybe give an overview of the nets, where it's at and stuff like that for those that haven't been able to get close to the club, please?
Absolutely. Well, I guess firstly, I'd like to say this presentation has been pretty impressive, and appreciate everyone hopping on tonight and having a look. So thank you to the committee for doing all the hard work in the background. Lyle, Aaron and Nathan for putting this show together tonight. There will be another one coming up, I think in the next fortnight at least, which will have a lot more info in regards to return to play. So fingers crossed we do get some relaxation in the rulings on Sunday. And as Nathan has said a couple of times tonight, things are changing every day. So we just need to keep an eye on the regulations and abide by them, and we can all get out there and have some fun down at Chirney. In regards to the nets, they are, I would say 98, maybe 99% ready to use. So as soon as they let us in there, we will be. The padlocks are on, but as the boys said earlier, we don't have access to facilities or to actually train yet. We're still waiting for that date of the 26th of October. But we know we've got a 10 to 13 people capacity per session, and that is going to be exciting for that first 10 people to actually get in and play a bit of, well, train for a bit of cricket inside these new nets. 5 new lanes, looking absolutely amazing. So yeah, I'm excited. Let's get down and have some fun. Jack, yes, got your hand up.
Cool. Yeah, good evening, everybody. Good turnout tonight, and thanks, Knackers, Aaron and Lyle, for your efforts tonight. Fantastic. I think we're all very well informed. Just quickly, off the top of the bat, the salt session last week was a great success, as I mentioned on the raffle night. I think it's important to all that were there to pass on information in regards to that on to anyone who wasn't in attendance. It's important to know. It's important to pass on this information because it'll translate nicely into everything else that we're trying to do here as far as the COVID-19 requirements are concerned. So I think it's as it was mentioned earlier in the presentation, it's not just all for the committee to try and keep under control. It's up to each individual to hold themselves to account and make sure that they're doing the right things and instilling the right behaviours around the club, because a good culture off the field brings success onto the field. And if we're one of the best clubs as far as following the COVID-19 guidelines, and we keep ourselves in touch in that area. I think it'll translate into good on-field performances and team success as the season goes on. So everyone just hold yourselves accountable. Embrace the season as it is, because it ain't changing. So I think it's very important that we just embrace the change, embrace what we need to do together, and I think we'll be quite surprised how much fun we might actually have. And and as I alluded to with the salt, just lastly to remind everyone who was there, pass on any valuable information that they learned from that onto the people that weren't there. Thank you for your time.
Oh, yeah, good. Hey, is that McKinns? Is that you, Sarah? You've just written here, is the sign-in app going to, and you sort of trailed off. What was the rest of your question there? You're on mute. There you
go. Just wasn't sure what the signing in app was.
Did you join
called,
late,
Aaron?
It is called One Breadcrumb.
One Breadcrumb.
One breadcrumb.
One Breadcrumb.
All right.
The number one breadcrumb.
That should be on the App Store, whether Apple or Android, and that will make life a lot easier for us recording things and for you signing in every time you're at the ground.
Rest assured, Sarah, I'll probably remind people about 15 times before the start of the season. So
very good.
And we'll post it all over the team app and the social pages as well, just to make sure everyone does get it.
Lucas Freegard, I've been waiting for that question. If someone from the club contracts COVID, does everything come to a grinding halt? So obviously the structure of having all the groups set up and at distance is obviously part of the mitigation in regards to that space. If someone happens to get it, we can probably very quickly contact trace to that particular group. So the theory is that your club shouldn't, if you're doing the right thing, your whole club shouldn't come to a grinding halt. I think we'll find, if it actually happens, and hopefully it doesn't, but if it does happen, I think we'll probably get a fair bit of guidance from the DHS, because we're going to find out pretty quickly. So I think the idea is that this is all about mitigating the possibility of us shutting down altogether. That's probably another reason the RDCA is probably leaning towards mostly playing a lot of one-day games, just in case someone in the middle of a game happens to contract COVID and a whole team gets shut down.
I don't think it's leaning to. I think they are. It's going to be one-day games.
Well, there you go. So there you go. So obviously, because the season's already restricted, we can fit more games in, etc., and such and such. Paul, you stop it. You're confused. You're really throwing me out there, Paul, with your comments. But yeah, that's right. So anyway, so that's the whole reason we're playing one-day games as well. So in case someone from our club or our team gets it during the middle of a game, we don't lose that game altogether. We can finish the game and move on and get a result.
Beach makes a pretty good point here about if you are feeling sick or unwell, don't come to training, don't come to games. You got to stay away.
Yeah. The idea of having the separate groups is that at absolute worst, if one person gets infected, that team is the only team that is prevented from playing. Everyone else hasn't associated with that person, so everyone else continue to play. That's basically why we are separating into groups for training as well as for games.
And apologies, Paul Basford. I just saw the first few words pop up where it said, don't rely on DHS contact tracing. I thought you were making a bit of a political statement there. I didn't see the rest of it. Yeah, we probably would have to get the group tested and isolated. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's just from experience. James, when he was at Moorabak, was a close contact. It took DHS 15 days to contact us. And by that time, we already had him tested and isolated, so it didn't matter.
Okay. Was he all right? I hope he's all right.
Yeah, well, he never got COVID, so it was fine. But it's just that it does take DHS a very long time. And as Ed said, we would just isolate that group, get them to get tested, and if they're all positive, it's fine.
Thank you very much. Hey, Mum, iPad, whoever that is, good question.
It is a good question. I think that yeah. Well, my understanding is that there's no rule that says that they can't. So
Thanks, Lyle.
So yeah, because my own children are planning to play in 2 different teams. So I haven't seen anything that says you cannot do that. But good question. That's a very good question.
That's question of the night. You get the prize.
Yeah.
What's the prize, Azza?
I don't have a prize.
Compliments. Great question.
In a similar vein, juniors that want to play seniors can still do that as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's our understanding. But like we said, things are evolving. Things could change next week for all we know.
So it's 8:24. Anyone else want to ask something in the chat or want to ask out loud? There we go.
Yeah, no.
I've got one more question. Are we using all of the nets during the training? Because it does seem kind of crowded. So I'm just wondering what the plan is around separation during training.
We're only allowed to have 10 or one group in the nets. So that group will be, 10 or 11.
One
That's
group
it. Yeah.
in the net.
So we've got 5 nets. So we've got heaps of room in there.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Gotcha. Yep.
That's right. So even though it's only one group, we can use the 5 lanes. We might have a bowling machine here. We might have some throwdowns over there. We might have a few blokes bowling or a couple of bats over there. Have to rotate them around pretty quick. Stepping on Wallach's toes a little bit here, or the junior coaches, and then perhaps after 1 hour, that group might go out and another group might come in and sort of do something.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. I just had a feeling that maybe it was like 10 to 13 per net. And I remember looking at training, how crowded it was.
Originally, I thought we might be able to get 2 groups in there, but that's not the case. It's 1 group and that's it.
In that whole enclosed area. After training, Lucas Freegard, after training, can continue to train with 1 or 2 others. If you elect to do that, that's your own personal private business, Lucas Freegard. From our perspective as a club enforcing these rules, we're obligated to tell you to turn up, arrive, train, and go home. In fact, they're even suggesting you're not even supposed to mix and mingle before or after training. So if you pull up in the car park next to someone who you don't even know if you're in their group or not, social distance, find out what group you're in and go to that group. So I'm not, once again, not the fun police. I'm just passing on the message. But what you do in your own time, Lucas, is up to you.
We probably recommend not unless those 1 or 2 others are in your training group. Otherwise, it kind of defeats the purpose of it. But as Nathan said, what you do in your own time, that's your decision.
Yeah. So Paul Basford here, I believe the rule is also 1 batter, 5 bowlers max, and an empty net between the 2 groups. I think that's modified slightly. I think the group in the nets can train as a group in the nets, maintaining a social distance. But I'm pretty sure from what I've seen lately, as you're probably more au fait with it, we can do what we like within that net, within that group.
Yeah, it's pretty, at this stage, it's pretty open to what you can do as that group of 10 in the nets.
Yeah. So early doors,
only the 10 in the nets, or 11 or.
Yep. So early doors, there was talk about saying a few in that net, a gap, a few in that net, a gap, but that has morphed a little bit. Just everyone park on one. Jack Hollins, what's this? Everyone just park in one space apart. Phil Grimley, with the group rules, would we have to have each senior team train on the separate days or not? We had a bit hamstrung there, Philip Grimley, because we have so many teams across boys, girls, women, men. Every single night is taken up. Plus, we've got captains and coaches who have work to do as well, and they can't necessarily get there every single night either. So in terms of coordinating all the masses, we've had a chat with Shane, and he's Shane Wallaker, and he's pretty keen to say Tuesdays, Thursdays our night. We just need to make sure we coordinate it as best we can on those 2 nights.
Yeah, just with that, Nate, can I just take over quickly? So it's for me to organise. I've really got to, I guess, nut down some numbers. So if you're interested in playing this year, bringing some new faces to the club, which would be great. If you plan on not returning, I suppose I just need to know an outline of what numbers we have. So then I can start putting some groups together. And the sooner I know that, the sooner I can get the groups together. So when we do get the go ahead to start training again, we will just get straight into it. So and I have got a bit of an idea of how I'm going to get around the whole 50 people thing. So I think I've got a pretty good idea that we can make it work. So yeah, let's hope it all goes to plan. So thank you, Nathan. So
no, thank you, Shane. 8:28. Jack Holland's got your hand up, have you?
Yes, just a real quick one. Excuse the ignorance if it's been covered, but as you mentioned, to make it as smooth as possible when everyone is arriving at training or for game day. Obviously, as you said, the sign-in scan thing, that's all great, and the trestle tables and stuff. Obviously, due to personal commitments or work, for whatever matter, people can't always be at training or arriving right on time. But yeah, would we have permanent meeting spots for those groups, like stations, so we can safely move from the car to that point without mingling? Because whether we say it now, people do get automatically complacent, and I'm guilty for it as well. The car park mingling is always a thing wherever you go.
We got it, mate. Yeah, the idea, we got it. You got the idea. The idea is that your group's your group and you stay at a distance. The idea is, in the old days, you'd all get out and throw your bags in one big pile. We're not really even supposed to do that. You're supposed to throw your bags in your pile with your group, and that group over there puts their bags with their pile with that group. And if they move, they pick up their bags and move with them. So I don't go and pad up at the same from group number 1 with Lyle, who's in group number 17, because that's see what I did there, Lyle?
Yeah.
So
good.
So we don't come together.
Anyway,
we don't come together and pad up together because we're from separate groups. So the idea is we have separate groups. So I personally just leave me stuff in the car, mate. It's going to be the easiest for me, unless I'm in the group in the far paddock. In that instance, I'll just want to take my bag out and I'll just catch balls. But yes, keep a distance even when using your gear, getting your gear on and off. We're done. Last call, Lyle. You were going to say something?
No, I'm good.
Azza?
No, all good.
Thanks for everyone to tuning in too. That's we've had really good numbers. So we had I think we got above 60 at there at one point. So